with another video. About a month ago, I made a video where I looked at my old One Direction fanfiction and critiqued it. So today I thought that it would be fun if I did something similar and took a look at my old 5 Seconds of Summer fanfiction. When I was going through my old fanfiction in order to film the One Direction video, I came across this 5 Seconds of Summer fanfiction that I'm going to be looking at today. And I read it, and it was just the cringiest thing. Like, it was just so unbelievably ridiculous that I'm like, you know what? I have to make this a video at some point. I have to make this a video. So, yeah. That's what's in store for you today. Disclaimer though, if you're clicking on this expecting to hear about what I have made the members of Five Sauce do, you're not going to hear any of that. It was supposed to be a 5 Seconds of Summer fanfiction, and I had every intent to bring the band into the story, but I never did. You just met the main characters that I made up. The main protagonist and her best friend, but Five Sauce never actually makes an appearance in the book, so I'm sorry about that. So while there isn't going to be any fun made-up adventures with the members of Five Sauce themselves, you will get to see a picture of them because, I mean, like I said, it was supposed to be a Five Sauce fanfiction. They just never made it into the story. I also, just like the last story, wrote this story when I was 15, so that explains a lot. But without any further ado, let's just get on into it. Let's read the description. Let's just dive right in. So the story is entitled Such a Good Girl, and the description reads, Ashlyn Rose is tired of being a good girl. She was fine obeying rules and being all polite all the time until she met Jackson Mace, the new guy at her school. He's hot, he's bad, and he's all Ashlyn wants. But unfortunately, all he wants is a girl like him. Luckily, Ashlyn has a cousin that can help her impress Jax and convince him she's bad enough for him. And they'll need the help of Michael Clifford, a very special friend from a very amazing band. But what happens when just as Jax starts to like Ashlyn for the bad girl she pretends to be, Michael likes Ashlyn too, for the good girl she really is. So yeah, that's the basic premise. Good girl meets bad boy, tries to impress a bad boy, and yeah. The cover though was made by another Movellas user named Beautifully Calm, so shout out to you if you ever happen to stumble across this video. Thanks for making this cover for my very cringy fan fiction. Ha! And the title, Such a Good Girl, I think I based it off of the song Good Girl by 5 Seconds of Summer. And the very first chapter is entitled He's Kinda Hot, which is definitely in reference to She's Kinda Hot by 5 Seconds of Summer. So, and the tagline slash catchphrase slash quote that was supposed to be from the book but isn't in the book because Michael never appeared in the book is, She's such a good girl, but what's wrong with that? Stated by Michael Clifford from Such a Good Girl. Ooh, one thing that I forgot to mention is that I decided to add a theme song to this story, and the theme song is Bad Enough by All Time Low. And this song is basically this guy wants to impress this girl, but she only likes bad boys, or maybe she's like a bad girl that only likes bad boys, I guess. And that's the theme song because it's basically Ashlyn's situation. Like, she likes this guy who only wants bad girls, so that's why I chose Bad Enough by All Time Low for the theme song. Even though it's sung from the perspective of a guy, it still applies to Ashlyn and what she's going through in the story. So I'll link that song down below so you can kind of understand what the idea I had for this story is. So now let's meet the cast. You have the members of 5 Seconds of Summer, Luke Hemmings as himself, Ashton Irwin as himself, Callum Hood as himself, and of course, the one that the main character was supposed to fall in love with in this story, Michael Clifford as himself. Next you have Maya Mitchell playing our main character, Ashlyn Rose. And for those of you who don't know, Maya Mitchell is an Australian actress known for Teen Beach Movie, which is a Disney film, and The Fosters, which is a TV show. Next we have Tiffany Alvord playing the main character, Ashlyn's best friend, Molly Banks. Tiffany Alvord is a singer. Next we have Nikki Gould playing Ashlyn's cousin, Amanda, aka Raven Rose. And Nikki Gould is actually from Degrassi, and I think I decided to use her like in order to like play Amanda because her character on Degrassi was like this gothic bad girl, and that's kind of how Amanda's supposed to be. And you don't meet Amanda in this story either, because I only ended up writing 2 chapters of this, and I think for the sake of the internet and for my own reputation on the internet is a good thing, because I tell you, these first 2 chapters are just, oh my gosh. And last but not least, you have this random Tumblr model guy as Jackson Mace. I couldn't find his name, and I'm a little too lazy right now to try and look up his name, but he's just some model guy with dark hair and tattoos, and I thought, hey, he would make a good bad boy for this story. So yeah, like, I got inspired to do this like cast thing by other stories that I've read where they like put pictures to help you like visualize the characters. And like while I reread the story, I still like picture Maya Mitchell as Ashlyn and Tiffany Alvord as Molly. I don't know, like I guess now, like if I had the choice to like recreate these characters, I would probably do it a little differently. But anyhow, let's get on into the cringe fest, because whoo, I suggest you just prepare yourself mentally, physically, spiritually for what you are about to hear and see, because it's just So our story begins with Ashlyn and Molly just chilling outside of their school before their first class. And we have this internal monologue of Ashlyn saying that she never really believed in the whole love at first sight thing before she fell in love with someone at first sight. And we'll see what she's talking about later. But basically, her and Molly are having this conversation. They have a science project that's due, and Molly didn't do the science project, so she's begging Ashlyn to do the project for her. Well, she says help her with the project, but Ashlyn knows that helping her just involves doing the whole project for her. So Ashlyn, of course, is the good girl of this story, and she falls into this stereotypical always doing her homework, you know, always like trying to get good grades, like that whole thing. And Molly, her best friend, is kind of the giggly, goofy airhead of the story. Before I continue, let me just say that the actresses that I chose for the main characters, they're not based off of what the actresses themselves are like or what I think they're like. It's just based off of, I guess, how they look. I guess, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I'm not trying to say that Tiffany Alvord is an airhead. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, for whatever reason, the way she looks just fits the way that I, at the time, imagined the character looking. I'm pretty sure that goes without saying, but I just want to clear the air here. So anyway, I realized that there are a few problems with this whole Molly wanting Ashlyn to do her science project for her thing. Because Ashlyn says to Molly that she'll just tell their teacher that they did the project together because the teacher gave them the option to do the project in groups or alone. So I'm thinking, okay, Molly being Molly, someone that doesn't really do her homework, someone that's kind of slacking off, as I said, the airhead. If the teacher had given them the option to do it in groups or alone, Molly would have just jumped on Ashlyn's bandwagon and been like, hey, we're gonna do the project together. Like, there was no way that Molly would just be like, okay, I'll do it alone. Because she is basically dependent on Ashlyn to get through the academic side of school. Because, as I said, it's the whole smart girl with like the not as smart girl, like that kind of friendship dynamic that we've seen 1,000 times. So I kind of feel like that beginning part, I could have written it a little differently instead of Molly like being all do my thing for me. It would have just been her and Ashlyn doing the project together. Really, it would have just been Ashlyn doing the project by herself and Molly just saying that she was doing. So basically, it doesn't make sense because it's just out of character for Molly to do the project by herself. I think you get the point. I guess I was more focused on showing the dynamic between them and their personalities rather than the practicality of what was going on. But anyhow, right as the girls are about to go inside to go to their first class, Jackson Mace shows up on a motorcycle. Now, Jackson Mace is a very interesting character. You'll see what I mean. 15-year-old me has it written. He, Jackson that is, strode slowly towards the school, just taking his time. He slowly took off his sunglasses and casually tossed them aside, like he could care less about them. Luckily, Kurt Parsons from my math class caught them, then shot this motorcyclist a weird look. Hey, dude, they kind of threw away your sunglasses, Kurt called out. The motorcyclist didn't even look at him. Keep it, he commanded. His voice was deep, loud. Practically everyone that hadn't already noticed him turned to see who belonged to the voice, Molly included. Okay, so the first thing wrong with this is pretty obvious, right? Who takes off their sunglasses and throws them? Like, nobody acts like that. Like, nobody would do that. Like, I don't know what 15-year-old me was thinking, but, like, in what world does a guy get off his motorcycle, take off his sunglasses, and chuck them behind him? And then when someone, like, catches it or, like, picks it up, and they're like, yo, what did you just do? You're just like, keep it. I don't think anyone, no matter how bad they are, would throw away a perfectly good pair of sunglasses. Like, were they broken? Were they mangled? No, they were perfectly fine. So I don't know what I was thinking there, but whatever. The next thing that I noticed that's kind of weird is Ashlyn thinks that he's so daring for having tattoos. When I look at someone and I see that they have tattoos, I think, okay, like, okay. Like, I don't really ascribe any characteristics to them. They just happen to have tattoos, but she's like trying to like come up with like character traits for him. He looked calm, determined. Then I noticed that his forearm was covered in tattoos, and I added a third adjective, daring. Like, I don't know, I just feel like she's like looking a little too hard, or I made him like the most stereotypical bad boy, wearing all black, riding a motorcycle. He smokes, he has tattoos, he swears. Like, just because you do all of those things doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. I'm embarrassed for me, and I'm embarrassed for the characters in this book. Jackson does not deserve to be treated like that. And his character just gets worse. As if throwing away a perfectly good pair of sunglasses wasn't bad enough. Two ninth graders I tutored at the start of the year were standing in the middle of the walkway, having a conversation, completely oblivious to the fact that a strong-looking, broad-shouldered male of approximately 6 feet was striding towards them. Move, he demanded when he got close enough to touch them. He didn't wait for them to respond, though. He just pushed both of them aside, making them fall to their knees. He just kept walking, not even giving them a second glance. Hey, what you do that for? One of the ninth graders, Lindsay Warren, asked. The motorcyclist spat on the grass. 'Cause I can, he shot over his shoulder. The other ninth grader, Aiden Peters, got up and helped her to stand. He pushed 2 kids just out of his way. Like, he's just walking. If they were in the way, a normal person would be like, excuse me, please, or meander around them. But no, the big bad wolf Jackson Mace doesn't care about anyone. He just shoves those 2 losers aside. And then when asked why he did that, because no one in their right mind would do that, he just replies, 'cause I can. And he also spits on the grass. Like, spitting, pushing, tattoo wearing, motorcycle driving, cigarette smoking, cussing. Like, he's just out of control. Okay, the pushing part, yeah, that's like the only bad thing. Like, but he could have been wearing a sweater vest and rolled up in a car. And like, the fact that he pushed people would make him bad. Like, the clothes he's wearing and whether he has tattoos or not doesn't make him bad. Like, I was just relying on all the stereotypes for this. I'm so sorry. I am so, like, I am hardcore exposing myself. And for some reason, it's giving me joy. Like, no, like, reading this story is painful, but the fact that I'm exposing how terrible 15-year-old me, like how bad she thought about this, like, we're moving on. So the next thing that didn't really make sense to me is, okay, they're supposed to be outside, like outside the school, right? Yet somehow everyone is within close enough proximity of each other to be able to hear like what's going on. Like, Ashlyn can hear what Jackson is saying, and she can hear the ninth graders. So like, I don't know like how close or how far away, but it, like, you know how in movies when they show 2 people having a conversation and then another person standing behind themselves, and it looks like there's enough distance between them so that the person that's by themselves would not be able to hear the person's having a conversation, yet the person that's by themselves can hear the people that are having the conversation. And you're like, how and why? Because it looks like there's enough distance between them. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting. Like, it's supposed to be like a pretty big school lawn. Like, think about it practically with me, right? You have a school full of teenagers, right? And they're all, let's say, waiting outside or just chilling outside before going in for their classes, right? So, considering how many people there would be and the amount of space there are, you probably wouldn't be able to, like, hear or see, like, every little thing that's going on. Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm just thinking too deeply into this, but it just seems impractical that Ashlyn would be able to hear everything and see everything that's going on with Jackson and the kids he pushed. Also, that everyone is so, like, caught up with Jackson, because it seems, the way I pictured it in my head is that everyone's just staring at this boy, this bad boy. And like, you can see how ridiculous this is with the next thing that happens. Ashlyn, being sweet little Ashlyn, says out loud, he's kind of hot. And then the guy stopped walking and looked straight at me. So like, how close is she that she just says that and he turns? Like, he hears her. Like, I don't know. But you know what's even better than her blurting out that she thinks he's hot? What he says next. And what does he say next, you might be wondering? I know. I'm on fire. I'm not even kidding. He literally goes, I know. I'm on fire. And with that, he continued on his way. Like I said, Jackson does not deserve this. Jackson does not deserve to be this cardboard cutout of a human being. Have you ever met someone that said that seriously? Who was not joking at all? Because like I know, like I'll say, like if someone's like, oh, you look cute today, I'll be like, I know. But that's like if they're my friend and like if we're like joking, but like he says this to a stranger completely seriously. Again, am I freaking out for no reason, or is this just the worst type of characterization ever? So, because Ashlyn is Ashlyn, and I decided to make her the person that she is, Ashlyn decides that she has fallen in love with this boy. So, chapter 1 ends with this beautiful inner monologue of Ashlyn, and I'm just gonna read this for you. Love at first sight. Felt like I was about to faint. My heart drummed heavily in my ears. I was having trouble catching my breath, and the shaking in my hands spread throughout my entire body. Despite feeling physically sick, there was this other feeling, like I was floating on a cloud. My imagination immediately started to picture me holding hands with that mysterious I can't do this. I can't do this. No. My imagination immediately started to picture me holding hands with that mysterious biker boy. Up there in my head, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, kissing up against the lockers, feeding each other grapes at lunch, cuddling at the bus stop bench. Ridiculous, I know. I didn't even know him, but yet, somehow, by some mysterious impossibility, I was in love. Okay, so the love at first sight thing, I don't really have a problem with, but it does bother me because, like, before this whole event happened, she didn't believe in it, as I said before. Like, she has a whole inner monologue at the beginning that, like, you can't fall in love with someone at first sight because you don't know anything about them, and being in love means being in love with someone for who they are, not just for what they look like. But then she turns that all on its head, and it's just like, yeah, I'm in love with this boy. Does she know his name? No. Does she know anything about him other than the fact that he has tattoos, rides a motorcycle, and loves pushing kids? No. Like, but she claims to be in love? Like, I don't know. Like, I'll put up the inner monologue, or you know what? I'll read the inner monologue that she has in the beginning, where she disproves love at first sight to an extent. And we're just gonna compare and contrast here. I never really understood the concept of love at first sight until I experienced it for myself. Before that, I often wondered how you could fall in love with someone solely based on their appearance. Sure, you could look at a guy and think, wow, he's cute, and a crush could form from there. But love? When you love someone, you love their personality, their beliefs, their flaws, their jokes, their laugh, their smile, their everything. When you first meet someone, you don't know any of that. Falling in love is so much more than just thinking some guy is hot. You can't fall in love at first sight. It's impossible. At least that's what I thought. She says that, right? But her version of falling in love with this guy is based on his appearance. She says he's kind of hot, and she doesn't know anything about him other than the things I already said. Like, she contradicts. I contradicted this character. You think Jackson doesn't deserve to be treated the way he... Ashlyn does not deserve this. Maya Mitchell does not deserve to play this character in my head. Like, no, honey, no. No. Can we also just address the, like, what she's imagining in her head? Kissing up against the lockers, feeding each other grapes at lunch, cuddling at the bus stop bench. I've never seen even the most, like, touchy, lovey-dovey PDA couple act like this. Like, not even the ones who are obnoxiously, like, affectionate to each other in public, I don't think even they do the things that she's thinking of. And, like, the other thing is that Ashlyn, Jax, and Molly are all supposed to be seniors in high school. Seniors in high school. Like, if they were in middle school and acting like this, I could kind of wave it away because everyone's a little awkward in middle school. But you were talking about seniors in high school, soon to be college students. Like, I'm not saying that 12th graders are the most adult people, but from what I can tell, they're not this bad. Like, this, it doesn't seem realistic to me, you know, I don't know, you let me know. If you're a senior in high school, do you think you and your friends act like this? Okay, we're gonna move on to the next terrible thing. So Jackson heads off into the school, and Molly decides that her and Ashlyn are gonna follow him because, in her words, he's so worth stalking, right? Yeah, she uses the word stalking, like she wants to stalk him. And Ashlyn pretends to be reluctant, but she's not really. She's like, that's an act that can get you arrested. But she goes along with it anyway because, you know, she's already head over heels for this boy that she doesn't know. Anyhow, Ashlyn and Molly follow him to the front office, which ironically, from the description that I've read, is like at the back of the first floor. But anyhow, there are floor-to-ceiling glass windows in the front office so you can see everyone that goes in and comes out. And so Ashlyn and Molly watch him go in, and they watch him talk to the secretary and then go to sit in like the lobby area. And so while Molly and Ashlyn are watching him, he notices them, and this happens. His eyes landed right on me. I felt my cheeks heat up and my eyes nearly pop out of my head. He just coolly nodded in my direction, a silent hey, and did the same to Molly. He nodded at us, she squealed happily and eagerly waved back at him. He stared at her blankly for a few seconds before sitting down, turning his gaze away from us. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Pull yourself together, Malls, I hissed at her. What? Was the wave too much? Way too much. You know, considering how bad Jackson is, I wouldn't be surprised if I wrote him like just punching Molly in the face. Like just storming out of the office and just punching her in the face. But luckily that doesn't happen. Essentially, Jackson, I guess, has to meet with the principal because he's the new student at the school. So he walks into the office, as I said, talks to the secretary. The secretary tells him, you know, wait a second. And I guess she notifies the principal that, hey, the new kid is here to see you. So the principal comes out of his office and he goes to greet Jackson with a handshake. But what does my man Jackson do? Ignores the handshake. Like the bad boy he is, you know. Principal guy going to like shake my hand. I'm so bad, I don't need to shake the principal's hand. I described the principal as an army man, right? So I don't understand why, even if Jackson is as bad as, you know, I claim he is, why would he be openly rude to not only the principal of the new school that he's attending, but a guy that looks like he could kill him with just a touch of his pinky? Who's that brave? I guarantee not even the most delinquent student ever in history would be that brave. But maybe, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, it's just, I think I was trying way too hard to make him bad in every aspect. And you'll see the extent of this just continues. Of course, Ashlyn is just thirsty with the capital T. And she's like, he smirked at me, then winked. I never knew a guy could be so hot. So, moving on. The principal sees Ashlyn standing with Molly outside the office and gestures for her to come in. because he wants Ashlyn to show Jackson around the school. Because I guess she's the model student with the perfect grades, you know, goody two-shoes. So yeah, her assignment for the day is showing him around the school. And she's a little nervous to do it, obviously, because he's the love of her life. But she does it because the principal's like, listen, this is not an option, you have to do this. So she's like, okay. And this follows. Jax, what brings you to our school? Did you transfer, move from another state? I asked, just trying to make conversation. Why should you care? He snapped. I glanced at him, caught off guard by his rude tone. Sorry, I was just being a nosy little... He used the swear word meaning female dog, a word I don't even want to write, let alone say. What would have been more realistic is him just not answering her question, or maybe shrugging it off, or just being like, not important, or you know, like, but just openly being like, why should you care, and calling her the B word. Like, I don't swear, which is why I wrote it like this, which looking back looks kind of cringy, honestly. But, like, I find it hard. Like, I cannot picture this happening. Like, what kind of person was I interacting with that I thought that this was how someone behaved? I think the theme of this video is not even the baddest person would act like this. It gets worse. So another reason why the principal wanted Ashlyn to show Jackson around was because they happened coincidentally to have the same first period class. So Ashlyn and Molly take him to their first period class, which is science, with a woman named Mrs. Crower, who just so happens to be elderly. And they go into the class and, you know, Ashlyn's giving her little narration, I guess, to Jackson, showing him around. The teacher is sitting up at the front of the room at her desk, and Ashlyn says, that old woman up there is our teacher, Mrs. Crower. Like I care, he grumbled. Yeah, I don't care either, Molly said in a lame attempt to be all nonchalant and cool like him. He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed across his chest, and he looked up at me with a blank expression. She crossed her arms too. Poor Molly, trying to, you know, act bad like Jax. I don't think he would say, like I care. Like, he probably would just roll his eyes or just shrug or just not say anything. But just the blatant, I don't care. It's overkill. I think that's the main thing. I was trying way too hard to make this dude bad, but it just comes across as way, like, just really, really cringy. So, Jackson sat in a part of the room that I guess is reserved for bad kids, kind of like a little timeout chair in the back of the class, and Ashlyn explained, you know, it's kind of similar to what you would see in a kindergarten class, but their teacher, Mrs. Crower, kind of thinks is necessary. But anyhow, he sits there, and, you know, Ashlyn tells him, you aren't supposed to be sitting there. And, of course, Jackson, being Jackson, says, I could care less. And instead of Ashlyn taking the hint that this guy is just not very nice and kind of dumb and just really just ridiculous, Ashlyn thinks this. I could care less, he told me in that same grumbly tone. It was just another thing that made him super attractive. My heart skipped a beat, and I realized my palms were moist with sweat. The way he was looking at me, it was as if he wanted to, what, kiss me? I swallowed hard again, and boy did I want to kiss him, press my lips against his, as his arms wrapped around my waist. What was I thinking? He was obviously mean. He called me a female dog, and he didn't seem to care about anything that came out of my mouth. Yet, there I was, daydreaming about kissing him. What on earth was wrong with me? I'm wondering the exact same thing. Like, at least I had this sense to make her a little self-aware, but the self-awareness doesn't last because, as the blurb tells us, she still goes out of her way to try to impress this guy. And it's just beyond me. Like, if the story had continued in a different way where she kind of, like, okay, she sees this guy, oh, okay, he's hot, right? He's cute, whatever. She thinks that's fine. And then she gets to know him and she realizes he's just not nice at all. And then maybe he is pursuing after her instead. And I don't know, like, I just feel like her then going on to try to become bad to impress him just completely erases that whole self-aware moment that we got. If that had been the extent of her crush, her being like, what am I doing? And then just not giving him the time of day. But she continues to crush on him. It's sad. And Ashlyn isn't special in the fact that Jackson is also mean to Molly. Jax told me to leave in a not so nice way, she pouted. He used the F word. Because, like, Ashlyn decided to move away from Jackson and Molly decided to stay next to him, and then Molly joins Ashlyn wherever she is in the room, and, you know, Molly explains that he told her to leave using the F word. So yeah, Jackson's just not a nice guy. Overkill, but still. So it turned out that they didn't have class, and the whole science project thing that we addressed in the beginning of the book is completely forgotten about. And the reason they didn't have class is because Mrs. Crower fell asleep. Like, I get that the teacher's supposed to be elderly, but I just feel like that's kind of mean. Like, you make the elderly teacher fall asleep. I also felt like that was just a quick way to just get rid of the whole class scene, so I didn't have to come up with the other creative way of moving on from that scene. I don't know, but anyhow, Molly and Ashlyn are just eating lunch outside, just chilling, and Jackson arrives. Yay! Jax strolled up to us, casually smoking. Want to try, he offered, shoving the cigarette under my nose. No thanks, I said, backing away. He just laughed. You're such a killjoy, you know that? He asked and took a puff. You're so dumb. Yeah, that's the word. Just plain dumb. Again, I highly doubt that anyone would actually do this. Like, offering someone like a puff of their cigarette, maybe, but not in this way. Like, again, I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive, but the whole thing is just really extra. He's just so blown out of proportion. Jackson goes on to call her lame for, like, trying to wake up the teacher when she was asleep and, like, studying during the period of free time that they had. And he says, you called me hot this morning, right? I nodded, somehow brave enough to meet his gaze. Well, you are too, but you're just not bad enough to get with a guy as sizzling as me. You're not bad enough to get with a guy as sizzling as me. Reading this. He gave me that seductive wink again and threw his cigarette on the ground before walking away. Ashlyn then gets up, stomps out the cigarette because she's afraid that it's gonna light the grass on fire, and that's basically how chapter 2 ends. And that's the last thing that I wrote for this story. And as I said before, I'm glad, because I don't think anyone would be able to handle the mess that the rest of the story would be. I'm sorry if I'm a bit repetitive, but I think the bottom line is that Jackson is just over the top, like just beyond. And I feel like sometimes over the top characters can be done in a good way, like they can be done in a comical way that works. But I genuinely think that I was trying to be realistic. Like, I genuinely think 15-year-old me thought that this is, you know, how bad boys act. This is how, you know, this is how it goes. Like, it comes across as not funny, but cringy. Because my intention wasn't to be funny, it was to be realistic. So, from what I can remember and from the little description of the story, I think that the direction that this was meant to go is Ashlyn wanting to impress Jax, enlists the help of her cousin, who I guess is a bad girl, played by Nikki Gold, inspired from her character on Degrassi. And I guess Nikki knows the members of 5 Seconds of Summer, and specifically Michael Clifford. Nikki thinks that Michael can help Ashlyn impress Jax, and I guess Michael just ends up falling for her for the girl that she is instead of who she pretends to be. Which honestly, the premise itself, I think I like. I mean, it's a pretty basic, like, romance setup, which I don't mind. Like, I don't mind basic plots like this. I personally don't think that the premise is what makes the story good or not. Like, yes, you can have bad, like, premises that just don't work. You can have, like, bad ideas that don't work, but I don't think a basic idea or a cliche idea, something that you've seen 1,000 times before, necessarily means the story is bad. I think the plot itself and the characters are what makes or breaks a story. And I think that if I continued with this momentum, this story would just be one of the many really, really bad, poorly thought out stories. Like, it's just, I mean, it was fun to read, but not fun because, you know, it was good and funny. It was fun because it was just really bad. And I think that the whole trend of girls liking bad boys, I feel like that whole trend has died down in popular media. Like, it still exists in real life, but I feel like the popularization of characters liking bad boys and stuff, I feel like that's died down and people are being a little more realistic. And so I feel like, okay, being intrigued with how he looks, yeah, but being so head over heels and falling in love with him, not so much. Okay, so my camera is about to die, but we're pretty much done with the video. As to what I would do with the story if I were to rewrite it now, I would, one, of course, make Jackson a little less over-dramatic and over the top. Two, I would make Ashlyn way smarter and be like, girl, you don't deserve that guy, you know? But of course there has to be like a reason, like there has to be some sort of conflict or whatever. So I think I would probably have him like her, and then like he's kind of convincing her that he really likes her when really he just wants to change her, and she kind of gets caught up in it because maybe he has a charming personality, but he's just not the right fit for her, you know what I mean? Like something a little less subtle and a little more complex than just good girl likes bad boy, you know, something that's a little more intricate. Anyway, something that doesn't turn the characters into cardboard cutouts of actual people. So yeah, if you want to read this story, I'm going to leave the link in the description down below. But I think you have to have a Movella's account to read the story because the rating is like mature because of the mention of drugs. I might change it, but I might not, because even though it's like a light mention of it, I still feel like being as safe as possible and just leaving it as a mature rating. So you probably will only be able to read the story if you have an account. If you want to keep up with me when I'm not making videos, I have an Instagram and a Twitter. I will leave the links to those in the description below. Subscribe if you want to see more videos. Let me know what kind of videos you want to see from me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!